For a third consecutive year, Sri Lanka has been placed in the Tier 2 watch list of the Trafficking in Persons report compiled by the US State Department. Now, the report notes that the government of Sri Lanka does not fully comply with the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking. However, it is making significant efforts to do so.
The Trafficking in Persons Report 2014 notes that despite taking significant efforts, the Sri Lankan government has failed to demonstrate evidence of increasing overall efforts to address human trafficking, adding that the government made very limited law enforcement efforts to address human trafficking. The report notes that Sri Lanka is primarily a source and to a lesser extent a destination country for men, women and children subjected to forced labor and sex trafficking. It notes that some Sri Lankan men, women and children who migrate to Middle Eastern countries are subsequently subjected to forced labor, while some Sri Lankan women are subjected to forced prostitution in countries such as Jordan, Singapore and Maldives. The State Department report highlights that provisions for victim protection were inadequate in Sri Lanka. The Trafficking in Persons report also charges that Sri Lankan authorities rarely enforced labour recruitment regulations and increasingly denied young Sri Lankan women the legal permission to migrate for work, increasing the likelihood that women would use unregulated recruiters who are more likely to exploit migrant workers. The report also states that many recruitment agencies were politically connected and that some sub-agents worked with government officials to procure forged or modified documents or real documents with false data to facilitate travel abroad. The annual report notes that allegations have been levelled that police and other officials accept bribes to permit brothels to operate, adding that boys in the coastal areas are at times exploited for child sex tourism. The US State Department has also issued a number of recommendations which they believe would help the Sri Lankan administration combat human trafficking and other related offences. Some of the recommendations are as follows. Improve efforts to investigate and prosecute subjected trafficking offences, convict and punish offenders. Investigate and prosecute government officials suspected of complicity in human trafficking. Promote safe and legal migration rather than imposing discriminatory policies. Expand the Bureau of Foreign Employment's mandate to include the regulation of sub-agents.